we go. Let's get the screen up. Yeah, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Stuart, for that wonderful introduction, however much I had to pay you to say it. Today we are, as Stuart says, going to be looking at the university has bought a site license for Vevox for the next 3 years. So we are, again, where we are possible, going to be supporting you as best we can with all the different tools that this has. And again, although I'm going to give you a whirlwind tour today, after this, if you want to have a slower, more detailed sort of conversation with myself or any of the team about how you may use this in your teaching and that kind of stuff, please do get in contact. We're more than happy to help if we can. So the first thing is it works either on your phone. If you have a phone here, if you go to the website vevox.app or vevox.app, there is also an app, as you see from Google Play and the App Store and all the rest of it, that you can use as well. Essentially, it's just an app that is a reskinned website. So we'll work. I'm signing in now as well, just so I can see that it is there. Vevox is a chat tool, and there's 2 parts to it. The bit I'm showing you at the moment is going to be all through PowerPoint. And again, I'll get to this in a moment about how you get it into PowerPoint. But you don't have to use it in anything more than your traditional kind of teaching. You may just want to have very few little sort of knowledge checks in there. And again, Stuart can jump in a moment with how you may do this with like sort of the co-creation idea of getting students involved in that conversation. But you don't have to go to the sort of the other side of Vevox, which may seem a little more daunting. We can try, where possible, to keep it as simple as you might need it. I will go through both sides of it, and so at the moment we're just using, as I say, PowerPoint. Okay. So I'm going to start with this question: what does audience response mean to you? So again, at the top it says vevox.app and the code, which is 160795361. And again, from what I'm sharing at the moment on the WebEx screen through my PowerPoint, at the top left, I can see there are 18 people connected to the session, and I can keep up with the responses. One of the downsides of audience response is that bit of adding extra time into your already sort of tight taught sessions. Lots of people have a lot of content they try to get through. This is obviously now, especially with what the academic development team have used and the resources they're sort of sharing at the moment, which is that kind of where we're doing the blended learning idea. Anything you can sort of front load on the students or provide as wraparound care essentially to the students' learning gives you more time within a sort of seminar-y online thing that you may not have had traditionally. And again, from people I know, like speaking to Mark, where you have 300 students in a lecture theatre, this may not be the time to use it. Equally, from a very small bit of research I did, actually more people were using audience response in the 300-person lecture theatre. They weren't doing it so much in the seminars where it was smaller and there was more conversation happening. So it really was fitting the purpose of a need that people wanted to engage 300 people at once, not where they could actually sort of talk to them. But again, where we now are not always going to be in for every single small taught session, this might be something that you'd like to throw in when doing sort of seminar work, depending on how many people you can teach online. So I've got 26 to 33. I will leave it one more second. This I have added in as a word cloud. So in 3, 2, 1. And Stuart, if you'd like to.
Yes, Tom, I was just going to say, those of you who joined us yesterday afternoon for the Tea at 3 session, there was discussion around how we're going to manage teaching on campus in a socially distant way, which I don't know if we came up with many solutions, but I think it was quite cathartic for lots of people to raise the issues they're facing. But I wondered your thoughts, Tom, on using this kind of thing, but using something like... I would never think of using Vevox in a small group because you just talk to people, but we might be in a situation where we're doing small group teaching in bigger spaces, so there can be social distancing between us and students. I came out wrong, like we just want to get the students away from us, but you know what I mean. So presumably something like this would be a good way of stimulating debate in what's essentially a small group setting. But I don't know. This has just popped in my head.
No, I think that's a very good point. Obviously, if like this now, we have a word cloud which has stimulated part of the conversation already. And the biggest thing for audience response, what it means to people, is engagement. So picking up Vivian's question here of can people delete comments? Yes, they can. I can't at this point because it's now broadcasting it. But on the app, when you type something in, you are able to click the cross next to the word and it will remove it while you are doing it. So again, if you do a spelling mistake, put something in you didn't want, you can delete it. If you mean can I delete comments from if everyone had typed in swear words and I'd have been like, oh no, everyone's typed in swear words, then no, you can't through the word cloud. There is a moderation in the chat feature and I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, the word cloud at the moment, they are, I think, looking at this going forward. At the moment, it is individual words, so you'd have to type it like someone did immediate feedback there with a hyphen to make it a phrase. Otherwise, yes, they are individual words. So, that, like we said, we've got useful C now means because it's a word cloud and just pulling stuff together. There is an option of doing it with like a free text answer. So if you wanted to have it as more phrases, you could do a free text answer for exactly the same kind of idea, Rosa. So what is audience response? It's a tool to facilitate interactions with an audience, but you can read that. As you just saw there, it's a way of getting people to get involved where maybe they want to stay quiet or sort of stay anonymous, which again, sort of Vevox, Nearpod, most audience response systems these days have an element of anonymity if you want them to. And again, today we are using it synchronously. We're doing it as a taught session. We are doing this live. However, as Stuart mentioned in our session yesterday, we demonstrated on Monday as well, we demonstrated the ability of certain audience response to actually become part of asynchronous materials that could be used within your teaching material. That's what I did. So another one, this is a poll. So have you ever used audience response in class before? And yes, they are pretty flippant answers, I appreciate. Another couple of seconds. Oh, I'm almost keen to wait for the 4. And bear in mind, I think I'm one of them, so that's one's definitely not going to happen. What I'm finding quite nice today here is the fact that you kind of see the percentages. I've got 30 of 34 people that have put something in, or 29, someone's changed their idea. There will be people, for whatever reason, no matter what you do, that don't necessarily engage with this. And again, I can't see the participant list at the moment, but obviously I've got 34 people signed into the app. Like I say, I'm one of them on my phone. What I don't know is how many are in that sort of chat box. Now, excuse me, something's
got 42 people here. So
again, a few left over from that, but that's absolutely fine. I'm going to stop it there. There we are. So yes, I talk to my students, they talk back. That is obviously the ideal method of doing anything, isn't it? Actually speaking to people. Yes, I use an online tool is an equal one. And 13%, I'm pretty pleased to say, came here for the biscuits, and I do apologize. There are no biscuits. I think number 2 is possibly that the biggest fear of being academics. You're up here talking, and again, it's really hard online for that very reason, where Jim's got biscuits, where you're not getting anything back necessarily. And again, I appreciate when before we started recording, I was having chats with people as they arrived, and Stuart's very kindly sort of helping and jumping into this. And maybe actually, Stuart, from your years of teaching, how have you maybe counteracted in any kind of way that they stare blankly at me scenario? If
Thanks,
you're
Tom.
worried.
That's a nice, easy one to to answer. I've had the answer to this all along. I've just been keeping it to myself. But
Waiting for the book deal, right?
I think it's that we had I keep referring back to the tier threes because I do recommend them every day because we keep having quite rich discussions. But on Monday there was discussion about active blended learning, and I think that obviously we need to be thinking consciously about blending our learning because we're in a very different set of circumstances and it's quite alien to a lot of us and it will be to a lot of our students. But you take the blended out, it's the active learning is what we should be doing anyway. So I'm sure everyone here has tricks of the trade that they use to engage their students to make sessions not just me talking for an hour, whether that's just asking questions openly to a group, whether it's more structured activities. But what I like about Vevox is that because it doesn't quite have all the same bells and whistles as Nearpod, which if you were at any of the sessions we run this week, right, Nearpod does lots of different things. It's like a Swiss Army knife of audience response. I think that Vevox is a bit more straightforward, and therefore, for me, this is like asking those kind of classic Socratic dialogue questions a bit like of your students. It's about if you're the kind of person who likes to stand at the front, have some slides, maybe write some things on a whiteboard. I think he said chalkboard then, like it's hasn't been a thing for a very long time. But then ask questions for clarifying knowledge. This is quite a quick, effective way of doing that. Was that the kind of answer you're after, Tom?
Perfect. That was exactly the right answer. Well done. You passed the test. I've got a couple of questions. Are there instructions how to get Vevox into PowerPoint? I will go over that in just a moment. And Anne, are students going to be advised on the tools we use? Not directly, as not everyone is going to want to use them, and that's kind of the point. Maybe through the rest of this week and through what we've heard so far, is people are sort of picking and choosing from ideas. So it may very well be localized support of what's going to be used. But again, from something like Vevox, as a participant today, have you kind of had you've logged into an app and it's just been on screen? Then there hasn't necessarily been any need to teach you how to use it. No is the next answer to Jim. You can't put Vevox into H5P. So what are some of the reasons we use audience response? Well, unsurprisingly, to engage the audience. Depending on the system you use, and again, there are so many out there, it's overwhelming and daunting, even for someone like myself that is an advocate of this. I still kind of haven't ever used Mentimeter, and I know it's one of the big ones on the market. But there is a variety of styles, and each one provides something different. And again, that can come with a conversation later of what is it you're trying to achieve and which systems do we have to maybe help facilitate that. And a good part is for checking in the understanding of concepts. It's to get people to, while they're sort of listening to you in a traditional sense, actually partaking in that conversation, even if they're not having to actually speak. So that is the PowerPoint, which we'll share around later. And as if by magic, so from Apps Anywhere, if you search Vevox, and this is in my favorites list just for speed, but there is a Vevox PowerPoint add-in, and we will try and make sure that we always have the latest version of the plugin available to go. And at the moment, it is the current version. So you would install that, and it then becomes part of your PowerPoint. So if I load up my PowerPoint here, this is what we have just run. I have a tab in my PowerPoint that says Vevox. And within this, I have add a poll slide, convert to poll, add analysis slide. And again, this is one of those more advanced features even I haven't had a real chance to investigate what it will do. You can do some really clever stuff about comparing answers. So you could ask a question at the beginning of a lecture, ask one at the end, and then add an analysis slide that will look between what they put before and what they put afterwards. Like I say, I've not used it much yet. I'm still learning this on the fly myself. And the instruction slide is that one there. So you don't have to create that. You just hit add instruction slide and it automatically does it. And the good bit about Vevox, when you add it to PowerPoint, is they are just PowerPoint elements. The code is automatically generated. So if I change the box I'm in, and I could disconnect that and move it to another box, that number again would dynamically change. So there's a whole range of bits and pieces. Can you add it into a PowerPoint slideshow? Yes, because I think that's what I'm doing. Am I misunderstanding myself? What you mean by a PowerPoint slideshow there, Jim? So, for instance, here is the one we've just done. No, there is not an option for Keynote, as I'm aware of. We can ask them. They are very, very receptive to any suggestions we have. But at the moment, it's PowerPoint because obviously PowerPoint works on both, whereas Keynote is only Mac. But if I add a poll slide now, it comes up asking me what kind of poll slide I want, and I'm going to go over this in the Vevox backend in a second. But I chose word cloud. I typed in my question, and then it's added it in. And again, if things are cluttered, they do just drag around, and you can put them where you want them. And the nice bit about this is, depending on the theme you use, if I change my design very quickly, let's change it to the green one. It updates the color scheme of everything you've done. So where that poll slide one came in, I may need to move things around from where I had it positioned before, but the bars and all that to change sort of color. And again, equally, if they're too long, I can make them all shorter. I could make them a different length, so when they vote, they'll only go to the end of that particular bar. So you can be again within Vevox within PowerPoint is very dynamic to fitting what you may want it to do. Nikki, if you do get problems getting it from apps anywhere, please report it to IS. But one of my colleagues tried it the other day and it worked. So I had troubles initially. If leading us nicely on, if you do have problems through apps anywhere, which hopefully now they've fixed, if you go to vevox.com, there is under resources, I think, oh no, where has it gone? PowerPoint polling and voting. You can download the add-on, and using the what's it called? Temporary admin rights, which again, speak to IS, they can help with that. You can install it directly through that as well. Thank you, Stuart. From there. So the way Vevox works is you create a meeting. So where in Nearpod, for instance, you might create just a presentation within a folder and you structure it how you like. You're creating a singular presentation. Vevox either goes into your PowerPoints, but you still need in the back end, before you get to the PowerPoint bit, somewhere for the answers and data to go. If you only want to use it in PowerPoint, all you need to do is create one box and then just link every single PowerPoint you do to that one box. So you don't have to sort of overthink any more than creating one and then sending everything to that. I'd argue against it because it'll get very cluttered with data. But if you're not really worried about the data, you're only worried about the live side of it, then you just need to create one space. And again, to create a meeting, I click Create Meeting, give it a name. Create the box, and there it is. If I go into that meeting, its default is paused. I'd need to turn it on. But once a box is live, once a meeting is live, it will stay live until you stop it. So it's now not going to suddenly turn off unless I choose to either pause it or stop it myself. So the good bit is this code is now live for me forever. So I can load up any sort of PowerPoint. If I do that to demonstrate, so if I go to Vevox, if I go to here where it says meeting connection, if I log out and show you from the very beginning, it would start for most people saying disconnected. If I choose disconnected, log in with my details, and the annoying bit is they don't authenticate with Google. I select my meeting, and because it's the first one I created, or the last one I created, I should say, it will be there. Now, do not be scared by how many I can see. Because I am essentially the administrator for the university's Vevox account, the problem is I see absolutely everything. Again, do not worry about me trying to find your data and look through your teaching. I haven't got the time to do that. It's purely an administrative thing. If you need help, I can log in and help you, but otherwise I will not be doing anything other than using mine. So I now click connect, and that code changes, and as you can see, it's dynamically changed on the slides to match the code. And then if I was to run this presentation, the details would get put exactly where I need it to go. So inside of Vevox, you'll see these options here. Polls are where I can create questions for using the Vevox presentation system itself. And again, I will show you that in a minute with something I've created for today. Obviously, you can, as I mentioned, create it in PowerPoint. If you create it in PowerPoint, it will automatically populate the polls in here as well. But if you create them a poll here, you can't then pull them into PowerPoint. So if you want them in PowerPoint, they must be created in PowerPoint, but do feed backwards, but they don't essentially feed forward into PowerPoint. Question and answer is the live chat. And again, I'll show you that in a moment through the box for today. Surveys are essentially asynchronous polls. So you could create a start, stop, continue activity that at the end of a lecture, the student can feed data back through the app or the website.
Tom, where you say it's you can have some asynchronous activities, one thing I like about Nearpod is that you can have the student-paced version, so you can set up essentially the same thing with the same embedded activities, but then they can work through it as they like. I'm not sure, or maybe you disagree. Would you? I don't think you'd use Vevox like that, would you? It would only be that they could then maybe you use it in a live session, but they could leave the poll open if they wanted to fill it out at their own leisure, rather than maybe setting up a PowerPoint which had they could work through on their own. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It's not asynchronous in the same way that you'd have the student paced from Nearpod. What I'll sort of demonstrate is a few ideas of how you can use it asynchronously. It is definitely more, as you say, a synchronous tool. The asynchronous side comes under surveys. You can't do the polls without you opening and closing the poll, kind of, but the survey does do that. So again, I've got one for today to show you as we go through. Customize allows you to change any colors and bits and pieces. Because we've now got the site license, I've been able to have it automatically add in the university details. Under settings now, PWP, is that PowerPoint, Samir? Under settings nowadays, the only thing that you can actually affect here now is whether it's anonymous or not. So the default is profiles are off, so students won't put any identifiable name in. You can turn it on if you want. And under data is where we store the data. So what I'm going to do is jump to the session I've created for today, which is questioning the conversation. And I am going to start by doing a bit of a presentation. It's vevox.com. And there you are. So if you go to vevox.app and enter the code, or it should be live if you haven't done it. There is a link in there as well that I've set it from my host perspective, where you can log into Vevox to create an account as well. So Vevox is obviously from the PowerPoint side aimed at education, but it has this, which I quite like for the conversational side, which is again where I'm going to ask Stuart to kind of jump in on. But I saw this used at some conferences where they were using it to pose the questions for the presenter at the end. So what you can see there is I've got my host message and I've got 2 thumb likes. At the moment, I'm displaying most liked. I could display most recent. It is most recent on the app. If you go to the app, the middle icon, the 2 kind of speech bubble type icons over each other, allow you to type in and ask a question. So again, if you have anything you'd like to ask me, obviously I have the WebEx chat open, but if someone would like to ask a question within Vevox, you can see how that might work. And again, you could do this maybe as a little exercise at the end for those students that when you sort of say, does anyone have a question? And everyone goes, and then you get 500 emails because then they didn't want to ask it in class. This would be the one wonderful facility to get those questions through anonymously. So what I can do now is I can see that this is my most liked question at the moment. So I'm going to click on it. It loads it to be sort of full screen. What about the biscuits? No, you can't add audio questions to Braille. It's not that kind of tool. That would be using Nearpod with other sort of add-ins, or again, something within Moodle. H5P, I believe, does audio recording as well. Obviously, that's not a live class one. For a live class discussion for audio recording, obviously, it's more conversational. I kind of get your point, maybe, though, trying to do it asynchronously, and there would be other ways around that. So I can answer the question about what about the biscuits? Have you checked the back of the cupboard? Right, I mean, right at the very back. There's usually something behind the tea. So just have a look there. That should sort the biscuit crisis out. There you go. Grab one from the kitchen. Why? That's a good question. It's a little vast for today. If we can be more specific. Are we supporting this package? Yes, we are. What's quite nice, what is quite nice is within Vevox, there is a chat now feature. And that chat now feature goes to a live human being from Vevox that if you're stuck while creating and you didn't know what to do, they will answer that question for you there and then. So with how we are working with them, they're based in Liphook as well, so they're just up the road from Portsmouth. They're a really nice bunch of people. So we are supporting it. Obviously, they're happy to come and do any specific training to either your team or the whole university, and as I am happy to come and help again with localized teams and people to support whatever you need for this. Can pictures be added? Not at the moment. That would be a kind of a Nearpod feature if you want to do picture based things. This is a sort of purely a text chat type one. Why are we here? Not in this planet, not in this meeting. I mean, you could answer both. Again, a very good question, and one that I will defer to my esteemed colleague Stephen Webb, who's an astrophysicist, and not me, who is a localized idiot. What I'm going to do is show you that while we're doing this conversation, we did polling within our PowerPoint. If you were doing a more seminary-based question, trying to get some answers, and it's not about presenting anything directly, I've already got questions created. So here we go. I'm going to open the poll. For those that have used Kahoot, this is where we get into the realms of gamification. So in what year were the Air Jordan sneakers released? I can, if you notice between your device and the shared screen, I can share the results. So I can choose to turn it on that I'm sharing with the answers coming in. So again, you can sort of see it as a live thing, and it's quite nice and quite fun. Obviously, when you're doing it as a quiz, you may want to keep it private. So I've got 12 of 32. I'll give you another few seconds. We're going to go through a few questions very quickly. Again, this is to make it a little more fun in game terms. Yeah, you may need, for the validation, you may need to be signed in using the VPN. It's and yeah, there's another bit to it, but IS deal with all of that kind of stuff. So right, I'm going to close it in 3, 2, 1. So I can see the spread of answers. What I can now do is with the A and the tick, which is I hover over, luckily, if you don't know what it means, it says show correct answer. It was 1984. I now just click next poll, so we move to the next question. In a game of bingo, which number is represented by the phrase two little ducks? Now, I mentioned this is like Kahoot, and obviously in Kahoot you get the leaderboard, and that's because I forgot to press that button. So I will press the button in a second, and what it will do is push to your device, push to your phone, your leaderboard position. If you do it sort of unanonymously, if you set this meeting up to be with people's names, it will then obviously name people and where they are. But because we're doing it anonymously, it will just show me roughly where people are. So again, 3, 2, 1. So there we go. Most people say 22. The correct answer is indeed 22. And I can show the leaderboard. And again, because it's anonymous, even if I do full list, I can see 4 people in first, 19 in 5th, and 8 in 24th. So I can choose my next poll. Which singer's real name is Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanata? If anyone would like to help me with that pronunciation, I know a few linguists are in the session today, so please do help me out, and I apologize for any poor pronunciation. I never owned a pair of Air Jordans. I wanted to own a pair of Air Jordans, Justin, but I never did. So 3, 2, 1.
I think this point about not being able to chat with peers while doing the quiz is an interesting one, because one of the first times I used Vevox, I was at a conference and the host was essentially using it for group work where you could discuss things together and then as a group put in an answer, which started off with a bit of a pub quiz kind of thing, just as an icebreaker, and then developed to a more substantive discussion on the topic, which was about induction, if memory serves. This was a while ago. And that was a good way of sort of breaking the ice as a group in person, which obviously we're not recommending now. But I wonder, Tom, about using this for synchronous group learning, but then putting students in different groups elsewhere, if you see what I mean. Like, so they could we had one of my sessions yesterday, I forget which one, there've been a few, we had a discussion about letting students decide where they have their own group meetings. So they could say, oh, we'll set up a Facebook group, or we'll just set up our own Google Meet or something like that, and it's up to them. But I suppose you could then push this to the group so they could talk as a group, but then contribute to the quiz. So you've got a bit of involvement in what they're doing, but from a distance. Does that make any sense? I'm slightly winging this as I'm talking.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting point. Obviously, I'm blasting through the next poll, but what I can do is so show the leaderboard. But if I now choose not to, I can close the leaderboard and we're back to the chat. So again, you could kind of like, it depends on what you're trying to do and what if you're trying to get some discussion between each question, you don't have to run each one after the other. It makes it the kind of, again, it's what are you trying to achieve with this? So yes, I get the point of missing having the chat and this at the same time. And obviously I know that when you have, actually, let me just try something. So next poll. So you can, just found it on the app. So I've got my question up: which country consumes the most chocolate per capita? There's a little grey arrow at the top right. If you touch that, it pulls the poll down and shows you the chat. You can add to that chat and then pull up the question again. So you can actually kind of do both. It doesn't split screen, but you can flick between both. And again, all you need to do is make sure you highlight that to the student as you're going. Yes, Andre, absolutely. It could be used as an introductory exercise. It could be one maybe to test knowledge at the end of it as well. So it's going to be depending on what you're trying to get through with the session. And again, from the quiz side of it, you could just have the quiz as part of the PowerPoint slides. You'd lose the feature then of sending it out to the gamification on the app of, like, where you are, unless of course you had it open elsewhere, because you can from the back end as well. Push the results. The answer is Switzerland, by the way. You can from the back end, if you had that open in another tab, do the leaderboard there. So you don't actually have to be inside of the presentation view. You just need to have the box open somewhere to open the leaderboard after a question. So again, if you were doing it within the PowerPoint environment, you could do the quiz from there as well to feed their device. So let's check where we are. We've got 4 in first place. There is a bigger spread now. How many of Snow White's 7 dwarves have names ending in the letter Y? So what you can see here is I've got another question, I believe, coming up. There are 3 question types that you can have as marked, essentially. So there are 5 different polls, 3 of which can be marked. One being a numeric, so my Air Jordan, how many 7 dwarves have a name ending in the letter Y? Multiple choice, where you can set multiple answers as well. And there is also the sort of the free text box. You can use the free text box to gather any information you like. You can also have it set with the correct answer, which I believe is going to be the next question coming up. So in 3, 2, 1. The correct answer is 5. Congratulations. Let's see where everyone is. All the leaderboard is getting more elite now, only 2 in the top echelons. What is the name of Spider-Man's alter ego? Stuart and I came up with this. So there are... Catherine says it's 6. We can debate this later. But this is a good thing where we can start a debate on how many of the dwarves have end in Y. I know Doc doesn't. I know that's validating your point, Catherine, but I'd have to Google it. I don't. Bashful. Thank you, Darren. So this is a free text one where you're able to put the answers in. Close the poll. Oh, you're too kind. So, Peter Parker. There's Stuart's answer, Miles Morales. Show the correct answer. There we are. So the correct answers were Peter Parker and Miles Morales. So where someone's put Parker, obviously that is part of the name. You're quite right. We could have added that in as another option. So we could have had Peter and Miles, Parker and Morales as extra. It then comes down to how far down that chain are you going to provide other potential correct responses.
The advice for that, Tom, is to, if you're using these different text ones, to keep it simple so people can't make mistakes, or at least when you're unpacking the responses to the students or prepping for the question, explain these limitations, that you're looking for the full name, for example.
Exactly. That's now this is a dangerous game to play. How are we doing so far? It's a rate scale. Just to demonstrate the tool, it's like a 5-star review essentially. Will our session be going on TripAdvisor? Probably not. There were no biscuits. There's obviously, this doesn't allow, unless you add another question after this, for the unpacking of what the answer is. So again, if everyone puts 1 star, but the 1 star is I can't do this, then yes, I appreciate, Fiona. I am blasting through the different question types. Hopefully you'll be able to sort of rewatch some of this later. Like I say, what I'm happy to do is sit down and do it in a much slower fashion and unpack each question type with you and your team, and work through what it is you'd like to do. I appreciate sort of in terms of demoing, the trouble is you try to get through everything for people.
And if you're using this in your own class, obviously the little number which tells you how many students have responded in the corner is very useful, because you can know you're definitely going at their pace. Tom's rushing through it here just to show off what's possible, but you can wait until everyone who's registered has completed the question. You can maybe decide just for yourself if there's a threshold you want to go across, that once 75% have responded. And typically you probably wouldn't use this many questions. I think I would, as I was saying, I would use it as just a dialogue for clarification, where I would deliver a bit of content and then ask people to fill out a poll. But if you're doing this more gamified approach that Tom is showing now, then maybe having response time is one of the things that you want to build into that. You want to say, oh, you only have a minute to answer this question, but that involves you making sure that everyone's ironed out any technical issues, or that the questions are appropriate for that level of pace.
So I'll end the quiz there, and so you can see where you placed on screen. Congratulations. To pick up some of the questions there, so Anne, a bit confused by the relationship between .com.app and I'm taking PWP as PowerPoint and where to start. If I do this at the very base level of, depending on what you want to achieve, if you are wanting to add some sort of audience response into a PowerPoint you've already got created, then you will need to go to vevox.com to create an account and create a singular meeting where we can dump our responses, which I will show you now as well. Once you've got a meeting created, you can then work solely within PowerPoint and use that to get the feedback each time. Now, again, if I've closed the PowerPoint, when you use a PowerPoint, load it back up again. Yes, use your university email, and it will. If you use an @port address, you'll automatically get the full license. I'll get an email, so I may have a few emails by the end of today. But if you use your @port address, you'll get the full sort of features and set from that. So if we look at my set, the one from earlier, oh, I didn't save it anyway. If you've done a session before, I know why. It's because it's disconnected. But you can clear the results and use a PowerPoint multiple times. So it will then, if I go to the data side of this, it records and stores all the data from all the sessions that you have run. So it's got the images of all the answers people put. It's kept the word cloud from the PowerPoint that we did. All of this is available. As I say, I think there was one about testing data, comparing polls. I believe, like I say, you can in the PowerPoint. That's a question maybe, Catherine, you want to email me about, and we can have a more private chat about that. Or again, if people are interested in that, we can look at that another day. I've got to have a look more detailed myself into that area of it. In terms of the live presenting one, there isn't as yet a way of, you can show the results, but I can't from here compare what they put, but I think you can in PowerPoint. If you clear the data from within PowerPoint, you can reuse it. The other nice bit now is, if I wanted to rerun a question again, I just choose, if I slow this down, Tom, slow this down. In the box, it just pops up automatically. So I can go back over any of the questions. So if I wanted to give everyone the chance to redo the what year was Air Jordan released, I just click rerun. It pushes the question out again. People can now answer that knowing that the answer was 1984, and you can then test your knowledge. But again, you can basically, yes, rerun it so that you can use it between classes. You can use it kind of in any way that you see fit, but you can keep reusing the questions, keep reusing the data. So I'll stop that for now. And what I will have in my, either in the data or in the polls, I will see that I have, so there you go, it's got it twice now because I run that question twice. So every time I run the question, it creates a brand new bit with its own set of data where I'm able to download the image results or completely clear the data out if I want. But again, it's kind of depending on what you're trying to achieve and what you'd like to do. You can keep reusing questions. So you only need to create them once. You can see the ones you've never run at all. They're still orange and poll. You can select them all. If you want to use or share them to a colleague, you could export the poll template and they can import them, so you can basically share questions between people. Or you could, again, run it between different classes and export them and move them into another class as well. Can it be rerun after all the polls because one of the answers is wrong? The students need to go back. Yes, you have to, in the poll section, you are the controller of this. So not automatically no. Like Stuart mentioned, it's very much a synchronous tool in this respect. But you could use, there are other tools we have, like the Moodle quiz, for instance, where you can get them to retake a quiz if you want them to do like a knowledge check activity that has that facility. I'm able to download a data report.
Just while that's downloading, I think the point of rerunning quizzes, I think, is quite a good one for sort of bookending a session. So you might want to start with, if say you had some prior reading, you might want to start with a quiz that checked students' understandings about that, and then you can somewhat tailor your content that you're delivering based on how well they responded. So if everyone's not getting one concept, you can then talk a bit more about that than you intended to, and then run the quiz again at the end and see if they've responded more effectively. Though that may be disheartening depending on how many students are paying attention.
In the report, it is just an Excel document, but because it's anonymous, it just says anonymous, but I can see how many people connected. I then have the summary of all my polls that I ran, so I can see the average answer, and I can start doing data comparisons within Excel itself. And I also have, and again, because I don't have it as individual people, it's just anonymous, but I can check the answers that people have put over the course of the session as well. So you have all of the data for the question types within the spreadsheet. Also the question and answer it saves, and the survey is saved as well. What I haven't done yet is open the survey. So if I choose my survey tab, I've got a reflective exercise, which I want you guys to do after the session. So again, if you ever go back to vevox.app, there will be a survey. If you look at your phone now, you can now see that the survey tab has a red orange dot on it, and it's basically questions that you can ask afterwards. So that is the bit that that's the bit that ties it together in an asynchronous fashion. So you could use this to ask questions and use it like the poll quiz tool. Obviously, they use the survey in the same idea as kind of getting information that maybe, like I say, start, stop, continue thought. Data is automatically available in Excel, but only from the download data report. So it won't automatically. I don't quite understand what you mean necessarily there by automatically. You can download this and it will. If the app crashes, how can we find the Vevox? Has it crashed for you, Carrie-Anne? Because it is just a website, but the code, if you sign out of vevox.app on your phone at the moment, in fact, let me do it in an incognito tab to show you this. There. So vevox.app. Now, Anne, I kind of skirted over, but I'll try and come back to, so here, the code was 160795361. Joining the meeting. The difference between app and .com is the .app is for the students, where they just enter the code, and so they don't have any of the admin headache. They don't have to build anything. They just go and take part in the session that is being run. The .com is that where we, as the sort of educators, the academic, go in and create the questions and create this. Like I say, even if you're going to run this solely through PowerPoint, you will need at once to come in to vevox.com, create a box to get a meeting ID that you need to make sure is live through the play button, and then you can link it back to your PowerPoint and never have to touch that again unless you want to log in to get the data. And every time you run the PowerPoint, if you clear the data from that PowerPoint, as you saw there, I thought I'd lost it in my PowerPoint trying to share it again, but the data is still in there. There's the word cloud that we did. So to answer Carrie Ann's bit, I'm in here. If it's crashed or if I've logged out, so I'm going to exit this meeting. At the bottom of your screen, Carrie Ann, do you still see questioning the conversation? And there's, again, the blue bar and the arrow. If I open it up, any session that I've taken part in will appear here. I can click it and just join straight back in. So I don't need to remember the code. It'll sort of save my last few codes. So again, on your phone, if you go to vevox.app, do you have that down the bottom? Do you see the... Thank you, Samir. Okay. In that case, you'd have to get the code again from the teacher. Now, again, if you're doing it live, it'll be on screen, he says. It's because I split screened. Oh, I hate WebEx.
This session, you've all essentially acted like students. So normally, when we've shown you the back end, normally the screen that Tom's just put up would always be up if you were using this. So the code would always be visible for students. If you're running it yourself and it crashes, it's very lo-fi, but when I'm using software like this, I always have a little Word document just with all the codes or the links I need in them. So if something goes wrong, I can very quickly grab them myself and then just copy them back into a WebEx chat or something, which if anyone was in my building community session yesterday, came in handy because I had to jump back in quickly after my laptop crashed.
You can't export a poll into PowerPoint. You have to create it from within the PowerPoint environment. But basically, once you have the Vevox tab inside your PowerPoint, it's then a question of adding a poll slide. The clever bit, if I just create a normal slide where you've already asked a question, if I go back to that Vevox bit and choose convert to poll, it automatically pulls it in how I think it's going to be. So it's showing the multiple choice. What's correct? 1 to 5. I can now choose to set a correct answer, which is going to be 3. Add that. And so if you've already created a slide where you may ask questions, you don't have to recreate it. It will convert it for you. You may need to tweak a little bit, but mostly it just sort of creates it. The tick is where it's going to display. So I move mine there so it shows it right next to the correct answer. And like I say, that's the nice bit about this, is these are all individual elements. There we go. I'll get it back somehow. So you can move it wherever you want it to go. It can occasionally be a little bit fiddly, but most people probably wouldn't adapt that too much anyway. You may just want to move the tick around. So yes, what I can't do is I can't add a poll slide from Nearpod. What I can do is add a new poll slide from within the PowerPoint environment once I have the Vevox plugin installed. How quickly does the poll update into the Vevox app? It's instant. So to kind of demonstrate this, if you've still got your session open, if I go customize, so if I type in here save and publish that, so anything you do in it, okay, let me pull up again then my, oh, I closed already, but essentially that is now live on your device. So again, I'll hold up my phone there. It appeared sort of directly on my app instantly. So
right, we're running out of time, so I think we're going to have to leave it there. I can see there's lots of questions, which is good that we've captured your imagination about Vevox, but perhaps if you can get in touch offline with Tom, volunteering you there, Tom. You
that's fine,
but I'll probably just direct you to Tom anyway. And thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Tom, for running a very interesting session.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thank you very, very much, Stuart, for helping.
Okay, so we have, I think, a session about the Moodle template now, and one about building communities, which I hope to see some of you at.
I've now got 11 new Vevox accounts created. The good bit is I no longer have to approve them because we have the license. It's set to send me an email, but it just gives them out like candy because we have a site license.
Good. Better than, because Neopod isn't. You have to manually give them to people, don't you?
Yes, yeah. I think Catherine's invited me to a meeting. Right. I'll go off and do that. See you all later. Thank you very much, Stuart, and I'll see you a bit later on today.
Thank you.